I don't know about you, but sometimes I just need a little bit of motivation on a Monday. So I am calling this series Mixed Media Monday. No. Monday Mixed Media Inspiration. How about that? I am going to start off with a distress tag from Tim Holtz. And we're going to be using a few different sprays here. So I have the new Uncharted Mariner. I have tea dye, antique linen, and I'm going to be using a little bit of ground espresso. And to add a little bit of color, I'm going to be using crackling campfire. All right, so we're going to start off by spraying our tag with a little bit of water. I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to take, I like to work lightest to darkest, so I'm going to spray my spray directly on my Glassboard Studio mat. All right, so antique linen is down. We're going to spray a little bit of Uncharted Mariner, and I'm going to actually sprinkle a little bit. So if you are a little bit intimidated by sprays, this is a good way to kind of dip your toes a little bit because you will get the look as if you sprayed it directly onto your paper, but you didn't. So you're going to fool everybody, but in the best way possible, right? All right, I'm going to add a little bit of tea dye up here, not too much, just a little bit. So that's why I like to take the nozzle out and just kind of sprinkle it on. And then to add a little bit more depth, I'm going to add a little bit of ground espresso. And remember, ground espresso goes far because it is dark. And I am going to add more of this Uncharted Mariner because this is the star of the show. All right, so I'm going to add some water here. And going to flip my tag over, so I'm taking the part where I sprayed the water and flipping it over onto my mat here, and then I'm just going to lightly kind of rub the back so that all of that color moves around. We're not going to get it perfect at first, but this is just a starting layer. All right, we're going to flip it over, see what we got. Oh my goodness, those colors are so amazing, and look at the effect that you get. And I know many of you are scared to spray, so just try this instead. You can do it, I know you can. All right, kind of want a little bit of that brown to go down just a little bit. All right, I'm going to take the brown up top and then kind of just wait a second just to kind of see what it does, and then I'm going to go in with my finger and fill in any of those areas that need to. I love this right here, and this is going to be so pretty. All right, so get that going there. Maybe a little bit of antique linen here, and antique linen is a really great base color. Even if you are into browns, I really recommend it because I use it often if I just need that first layer down, because it will, almost any color is going to cover it up pretty much. So let's see, I'm going to add a little bit of ground espresso up here, just a little bit, and also a little bit of tea dye. All right, and then we're going to take Uncharted Mariner. So this is a process that you kind of have to be patient with. I get comments often or from time to time where people will say, I've tried this, I don't get the same effect. I promise you it's probably either one, the paper, or you're stopping at the first layer. Sometimes you just got to keep going. All right, I'm getting that mucky color here and I don't want that, so I'm going to tap that off. I do want this blue to get over there to kind of cover that up, move things around a little bit. All right, I'm going to dry this, not 100%. but just enough to where I can put a little bit more color on, and then it's not going to mix in with all of the wet areas. You see all of this amazingness happen? So, so pretty. All right, I need to add a little bit more Uncharted Mariner here. And I'm not going to spray it on because I don't want a full coverage here. I just want a little bit here and there. And there we go. And I don't mind this here. It's actually going to create some really cool colors and a lot of depth on the, man, this is everywhere. All right. All right, I'm also going to add a little bit more of the ground espresso just because I love this dark area here, but I want it a little bit here as well. So we're going to kind of mimic that. I'm going to take our spray bottle and spray just a little bit of water. We don't want to add too much, but we need to help that color move around, or else it's just going to sit there like a blob. All right, we're going to heat this again because I need to dry some of these areas where I really, really like them. Although they probably will react again once I start adding more spray, but at least I can try to keep it there as much as I can. All right, I need to add something up here. It's too meh. There's not much going on, so we're gonna add a little bit of that tea dye, get that moving around. And then I like to go in with my finger and kind of pounce it around just a little bit. That way it kind of blends it out. You know, that's not moving. And then, because I don't want to add too much water, I'm just going to move that around with my finger a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit better. And then once we start adding the water splotches, it's going to add even more depth and texture and so much interest to this tag. This background is going to be gorgeous. All right, and you're going to see how simple this tag is going to come together, and you're going to want to try it for yourself, I promise, especially with spraying these sprays on a non-porous surface first and then smushing whatever, you know, card base, tag, whatever, into the color instead of spraying, because I know a lot of people are intimidated by spraying the actual sprays. Sometimes I am too, because especially like colors like Uncharted Mariner, it is dark, so you're gonna get what you get. All right, so I am going to completely dry this, and then we're going to start adding the water splotches. All right, so how I do this is I like to spray water in my hand, or you can pour it, whatever, but you want to get a little bit, not too much, but just enough to where it starts dripping out of the creases, or the, you know, your fingers onto whatever surface you're working on. And you also need a dryer and probably a paper towel so that you can kind of splotch some of this up. I actually like to dry the water droplets in place. I think it gives a lot of interest. But I also like to pick up some of that water on some of them as well. So I like to dry some of them in place because then you get a really cool effect, but then I also like to pick some up so that you kind of get a lighter color in some areas. And this is a process. You're not going to stop at one water splotch. You're going to want to keep going, and you're going to trust the process, and you're going to come out with something amazing. I know it. All right, I don't really like what's going on up here, so I'm going to splatter on some more of that ground espresso. You can always add more, but it's harder to take away. Well, it's almost impossible to take away. So that's why I like to go kind of in layers and stages, because then I can add as much as I want as I go. So I can build up all of those, the color and then the layers as well. So I want kind of this going on, that to be a little bit darker. There we go. Okay, same thing with down here. I want a little bit more, I don't know, something. And once you do this a few times, you'll kind of know what you want and kind of what I'm talking about. It's a little bit hard to explain because on camera, you really cannot see all of the depth and texture that you get on something like this. You kind of have to play around with it yourself, and then as you do it a few times, you'll know when to stop, how much to put, where you like what, because I can only tell you what I like. And it won't be until you start doing this yourself and kind of experimenting to know exactly what you like. All right. There we go. All right, I'm going to dry this again. All right, the browns take a little bit of time to kind of do their thing. So we're going to let that kind of sit there, and then I'm going to swatch up some of these little areas here and get some of these as well. Just want to show you how this is coming along with just a little bit of spray and a little bit of water. That's it so far. I'm going to add a little bit more. If you want bigger splotches, you're going to put it in your hand and let the water drip from your hand. And you're going to kind of put a little bit more in your hand, versus if you want smaller splotches, you're just going to kind of spritz your hand just a little bit and then flick it on with your fingertips. I hope that helps. All right, I'm going to kind of clean this up a little bit. Not that it really matters. I wish you could see this in person because the Uncharted Mariner, let me just show you real quick. Hopefully I can show you guys. It is just, it's amazing. This color is everything that I didn't know I needed. I promise you. We're going to dry this again. All right, and if you get a few areas that are just taking too much time, then you just kind of want to splotch up that water, because I don't want to set my tag on fire with the heat tool. Doesn't that look amazing so far? So, so pretty. All right. Now we're going to do a little bit of stamping because I feel like I love this and I don't want to change anything about the color in the background. So we're going to do some stamping. I'm going to grab the Distress Ink Uncharted Mariner and then also a archival ink. All right, I have to take a sip of my coffee because it's very early and I'm surprised that I've gotten so much out of my brain, out my mouth without finishing my coffee, because that's very rare. All right, this is my go-to stamp set when I want to add script. It is the Ledger Script stamp from Stampers Anonymous. This one's amazing, very well loved. It doesn't even stick to the plastic anymore. This one mainly. This one's amazing. As you can see, it's very well loved. All right, I may use a couple of these just to add a little bit more interest onto the tag. We'll, maybe this one. This is the new stamp set, Eccentric. All right, so I'm going to layer this is Ground Espresso archival ink on here, up on this side where the brown is, and then a little bit here and here. Okay, and then I'm going to take Uncharted Mariner with the script stamp, and I just want to layer the colors on top of each other. I don't want the script to stand out too much because I just want it to be another layer on the background. So that's why I am just adding a little bit here and there just to kind of add something there. There we go. See, this is a little bit too much for me, but there's nothing I can do about it now. I should have known not to put it there. It's a little light there. All right, and then I'm actually going to take a little bit of the Ground Espresso as well and add some of the script up here. Let's see, right there. And you could switch it up with the stamps as well if you want. I just kind of, I'm lazy and just like to stick with that. All right, I think I want to add a little bit here with that stamp there. There we go. Just like that. All right, and again, remember, this is all going to be background stamping, so you don't want it to stand out too much. All right, we need to dry this completely because we are going to be doing some embossing, and I don't want any of the embossing powder to stick to any of the stamping that I just did. All right, we're going to take this stamp from the Professor 2 stamp set, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of embossing, so you want to make sure that this whole tag is completely dry before you do this step. I'm going to add a little bit of this anti-static powder. This is from the Rabbit Hole Designs. All right, I'm going to put my tag in my MISTI, this all the way up there. I'm going to line this up pretty center-ish. Not too particular about it being perfect. I'm going to grab that. All right, I'm going to press this down, and I think it's pretty good. I can see the impression. Sometimes I like to do it twice, but I think we're good here. I grabbed a scrap paper, and I'm going to use my super fine white embossing powder. The reason why I wanted to do this video, I got a ton of questions on Instagram, and you know, what white are you using? What are you using to splatter? And it was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna take some time Monday morning, hopefully before my kids wake up, and just make a video. So this is a little bit too symmetrical for me, like it's almost too perfect. So I'm going to show you a trick. All right, so I have this little brush, and this is used for powders, and I just like to go in with it and just kind of pounce it around here and there, just to break it up just a little bit. And then I'll just tap off that excess. And if it stays, like there's a lot of little areas here where it kind of got where I didn't want, I'll try to get most of it off, but I'm not too worried because I am going to be adding splatters later, white splatters, so it's just gonna kind of all blend together. Now we're going to melt the embossing powder, and you cannot use, well, you can use this tool if you have a lot of patience. I do not, so I'm going to switch to my embossing tool. All right, I have stamped out a few different images here, and we are going to create that signature Zoe look. If you don't know, I will link her Instagram down below. She has this really cool signature look that everybody knows. You got the top hat, something in the center, and then sort of like the shoulders of a person, and with the tie or whatever on the bottom. And I always like to use a butterfly in the center. It's just really cool look. All right, so I'm going to color these just a little bit with some antique linen. Just gonna go in here, just kind of spray it a little bit. Going with a little bit of tea dye, just to add a little bit of color. All right, I'm gonna set that one aside to dry. This one is going to be a little bit more, not intricate, but I want to get a little bit more color on this one. So I'm gonna take my time a little bit on this one. So I like to spray overall antique linen. Just kind of pounce it out with my finger. Then I'm going to splatter on some of that antique, or what is this, tea dye, and where it lands, okay? Then we're gonna go in with a little bit of Uncharted Mariner, and this one I wanna be a little bit more strategic with, because I want it to be here and kind of here. And I'm not making it perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, just if it's in the general area. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water so it kind of blends out a little bit. And then I can always go in with more because I want this to be vibrant, because this is going to be the star of the show. And then I'm gonna go in with Crackling Campfire. All right, but first I need to make sure that this is kind of dry, just so that I don't get too much mixing. I don't want it to become muddy. All right, I'm gonna go in the center here with Crackling Campfire. This color is one that you do have to kind of add a few different layers. It's not getting on there. And I don't want it to be perfect. There we go. I love that, what's going on there. Too bad that's not on the butterfly. All right, I'm gonna add that there. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back in and splatter on some of the Uncharted Mariner. I'm going to dry this, see what's going on here, and then I can add more color if I need to. I'm actually going to cut these out and then we're going to assemble our tag. I'm going to take this dauber tool and get some of that ground espresso on it. And then I'm just going to ink the edges just a little bit. And in some areas, I'm actually going to go in and blend up a little bit. I don't know if you could see that, but you could probably see the difference from here to here. Just kind of adds that extra something. I feel like it finishes. It's one of those finishing touches, I think, to a project. If it needs it. It doesn't, sometimes it doesn't need it. But for this, because it's a little bit more grungy, we're gonna add some of that in there. All right, we're going to take some of this Distress Microglaze, and you probably have seen me use this before. If you have been with me for any time at all, I use this all of the time. All right, we're going to use a little bit of Distress Microglaze. This is going to brighten things up, seal the ink in place, and then I don't know what the microglaze does, but it adds this weird, it's like magic, to be honest. We're going to line this up, and I'm actually going to sew this together. Maybe do a little bit of stitching on the sides here, depending on my sewing machine. It's kind of being finicky these days. And then I will be back to show you. All right, we're going to add some splatters, and I like to use the Dina Wakley Gloss Spray in white. And I like to take the nozzle out, of course, and then just kind of splatter. And I did cover up my stamped images. I probably should have done this before. That's okay. You can always improvise. All right, splatters are done. Now we're going to add a sentiment. And I'm trying out this new glue. It is Bearly Art Precision Craft Glue. I actually quite like it so far. I got it off of Amazon. Comes with this really fine tip, which is amazing. Okay, stay simple. Just like that. I actually don't like that because it's too, maybe I need make a difference, I think, because then it'll hang off and not look, I don't know, it just looks weird to me like that. All right, let's try that again. There we go. That looks better. Very simple, not much to it, I promise, but the end result is amazing. And I hope you give that little tip a try if you are scared to spray your sprays. Add it to a non-porous surface first, and then you can just smush it into your color and then kind of finish up your project as you normally would. The techniques I used on this tag is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want even more tips and tricks and techniques, be sure to click the playlist right here where I share so much more. You do not want to miss it. I'll catch you later.